Good evening, and welcome to the Film Lab's Elevating Women in Entertainment series. My name is Anoushka Sharma. I'm part of the Film Lab social media team and your host for tonight's conversation. As an advocate for inclusivity on and off screen, Film Lab is passionate about spotlighting voices that have historically been marginalized, especially those of women of color who bring unique perspectives and essential stories to the arts. Tonight, I'm honored to be joined by Julius Stone, Arts Education Programs Manager at Partnership with Children. Julius leads vital work that empowers young minds through creative expression and educational equity. So welcome, Julius. Thank you for being here. If you just want to start by introducing yourself a little bit, talking about a little bit of what you do with Partnership with Children.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Julius Stone, and I am the program manager for the career development program here at Partnership with Children. And Partnership with Children is a 117-year-old, originally social work organization that started during that great, the Gilded Age, and over the years has transformed into a real pillar in the community. We're a CBO that's in pretty much every single borough, close to 30 plus schools, and we work with schools, children, principals, in order to make sure that our students are feeling safe, secure, and are getting the necessary things they need to be successful adults.
Yeah, so I would love to start by talking a little bit about arts education.
Yeah.
I'm someone who cares a lot about arts education,
Absolutely.
having had access to incredible arts education as a kid myself, and as someone who also teaches theater to young kids in my own time. And so I feel lucky to see the impact of it every day. And so I would love to just hear a little bit about why arts education matters to you, why you think it's important for young female students of color.
Absolutely.
And why it's important in this current moment, I think, in our country.
Yeah. Arts education, for me, growing up, and oftentimes, which is ironic because I feel like growing up, a lot of my arts teachers were female presenting people, right? They were femme bodies, and their instruction and the way that they navigated the world, I didn't realize how much that they were providing, decolonizing my brain, and sort of getting me to understand in even the smallest ways how the patriarchy makes impact on our bodies and on our art. And so I think for me personally, being a gender nonconforming, two-spirited person, being with those people liberated me. And I think for the femme bodies, the trans bodies, women presenting, I want to make sure I include everyone, because I think there's a larger scope than just what we consider cis, right? So I think those that sit in that larger scope, I think art is the conduit. And I think that the container is the art that they're choosing to express themselves in. And I think in that is where they find their solace, is where they find community, is where they find the expression through the trauma that they're navigating, whatever that trauma is, along with being able to understand that in that trauma there comes growth. What we do here at PWC is everything from groups, right? So we have female-led groups. We have our guidance counselors and our social workers and our community school directors and our TAs, teaching artists, going into the schools and making sure that those folks that identify as such are feeling safe, even in that identify as male, are benefiting from being in these spaces with very smart, very talented women who are their guidance, their mentors, right? Having a space and having people that look like you, that see you, that make sure that you feel grounded, that you feel supported, regardless in what body that you're presenting in, is something that at this juncture in the world, at this point of society, and in the sort of history of this country, we have to have. Yeah. It is paramount, because if not, then we will lose people. And I won't go deeper than that, but we will lose people because they don't feel safe, and they don't feel wanted, and they don't feel seen.
I really resonate with that message and that sentiment, and I think a lot of how I think about the arts is something that is a liberatory practice inherently, and so I really resonate with what you said about how it's personal.
Yeah.
Not just creative or about community, but it is personal for every individual, and I think that's really important. Yeah, and I think along those lines, I'm really interested in PWC's idea that their approach to arts education is healing based.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear what that means to you.
I think we really do try to focus on this idea of how is the pen to the paper, you connecting to your feelings, being able to see what that does for you in this progression, right? You sat in the room over in the corner and did not want to participate, and that teacher got you to sit at the table, right? It's sort of that idea that Solange talks about, right? Seat at the table, right? It's this idea of how do we make sure that you realize that if it takes you 15 classes to get to the seat at the table, then that's okay. But in that is always constantly creating those spaces of safety, those spaces of listening, communication, right? Being present, setting rules that are created by the students in the room. How are we going to respect each other? What do we want our communication style to look like? How do we want to respect one another, right? What does it mean for you to be seen as the body that you're in, with the hair texture that you have, with the skin tone that you have, right? Transitioning, not transitioning, sexuality, spectrum, the first gen to the having been here for over a century. What does that mean for you being in that body, being in this country? Our goal is to make sure that all of our students are moving through the world authentically, and within that comes their own ability to be safe and to take care of themselves. But you can't do that unless you know yourself, right? We can't solve all the problems, but we should at least know where to send for resources. So that's sort of our approach. That really is sort of how we, as a community and as a organization, navigate our students.
Yeah, I would love to just hear even more about if there are any specific programming or initiatives recently that you feel like have really illustrated everything you just talked about. Yeah.
We are constantly doing programming where we're looking at who are you as an individual, who are you as a person, and then how do we give that information. And sometimes it just happens naturally, and sometimes I'm on the call and I'm like, hey, we need to direct, I would love for you to direct this symposium this way, or can you talk about this part of this in your symposium. So it's one part like I'm seeing things and directing it, the other part is like it just naturally happens. Especially from those of us that are working professionals and working artists, we just are constantly talking about sense of self. So I think that's sort of how I navigate our femme-based body students, is like giving them examples of like people that look like them and having those real conversations. And they get to walk away with those emails and those text messages and IGs and email. And I encourage them, it's actually part of their homework, that they must follow up with these people. And in that is allowing them to establish a network. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think so much of what you just said really resonates, because when you're working with kids, like so much of what is fruitful just happens in the moment and is discovered in the room. Like there's a specific conversation that you can have with those group of kids. Every group of kids is different, and I've definitely seen that too in my own experience working with kids. And so I love that you mentioned how it kind of is free-flowing by nature, and that really encapsulates that healing nature and the liberatory spirit of it, because sometimes structure can be like limiting and makes us feel unsafe.
Yes.
And so I think that finding that balance is really important, and I appreciate you kind of outlining that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would love to hear of if there have been any like inspiring stories or outcomes that come to mind.
Yeah. One of our students started in my very first cohort and has returned year after year to either interview or to talk in front of our students. This summer, they just got hired to work for PWC, part of our Freedom School. We do Freedom School in Brownsville. And they got a chance, along with another CDP grad from cohort 22. So cohort 22 and cohort 23 had the opportunity to go off to Tennessee, get training, and work in our schools that are connected to us as an organization. So they've gone through the program, they've been living their life, doing college, saw that the opportunity was posted, came and got a chance to make some serious money, right, this summer. And one of them just came back to present with me at a conference just a few weeks ago. So just being able to see them grow as individuals and as leaders and to hear them talk, I mean, it makes my heart smile. You know, I got an email from another student of mine who was navigating, you know, the fright and the sort of fear of being taken, right, in this very scary time, and was so in their heads and so scared about this that, you know, CDP was one of those things where they're like, I don't know if I can come to this. And the text message, the WhatsApp message, because we have a WhatsApp group, because it's the way we communicate, it damn near made me bawl. The work you do has to come from the heart, and it has to come from you wanting to see people grow, because you yourself want to grow. And so when I get those text messages, or when I see their faces, or when I hear about, you know, one of my students at SUNY Purchase was having a situation with a teacher and came down to visit us and was just like, I don't know, this is what's happening. And I'm like, well, let's talk about it. Let's look at it. You know, how do you break it down, right? Let's think about some of these skills that we've talked about in CDP. You know, how do you advocate for yourself? How do you make sure that you are navigating a system that's not made for you, but that you can outsmart it? You know, so these are the conversations I have with a lot of my students, right? And I feel very, I don't know if lucky is the word, but I feel very blessed that I have the ability to sit in a room and to make any student feel comfortable. My friends say it's magic. My other friends say that I'm a witch. My other friends say that it might be just who you are and how you've navigated the world and how the world has treated you. But I think for me, it's one of those things where I look at every single student in their eyes and I let them know that they belong. And so that's how I like to navigate, and that's how I've been navigating. And those are some of like those success stories.
That's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think so much of that really speaks to me as well, because as a student, the best experiences I've ever had in the classroom are when teachers or professors make space for you to bring your full self into the classroom. And so not shying away from difficult conversations, not shying away from, you know, the baggage that comes with being human is I think so important. And so much of, I think, our educational system is built on excluding those things and, you know, leaving yourself out the door and you become a different person as a student, which is not realistic. No one can do that. And I do think that the arts, specifically in arts education, provides a space for us to kind of challenge the typical education system. And I do think that's really important and really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. You kind of touched on this already, but my last question is really just about how do you kind of sustain the momentum outside the classroom while also kind of maintaining rest for yourself and for everyone involved. I think so much of like just artistic work, social justice, anything, we often forget that rest is so important and necessary. And a lot of, especially what you said, like a lot of the things that we're dealing with right now are really heavy, and it's important to face them head on, but we also have to kind of make time for ourselves. And I wonder how you grapple with that in your work.
Absolutely. So I'll give this. My friend likes to say you're a storyteller. So in CDP, we focus a week on wellness and navigating that, and navigating sort of this idea of the juggling and time management and breath and being grounded and taking that moment to stop, right? And taking that moment to journal, taking those moments to like gather yourself, right? And thinking about what's going to crash you out and how do you stop, right? How do you detour? How do you get off the highway to take that breath? And so, because I've gone to therapy and very proud of that, I have tools that were given to me because I've been trained in crisis intervention, because I've navigated some of the trainings that we do here at PWC. I feel like I've been really blessed with understanding of things, of how to navigate those conversations and navigate when someone is crashing out, and being able to say, what do you need? And how can I help you? Because I think when people hear those words, it changes the situation dramatically. And I know when I hear those words, it makes me feel seen and grounded. So if I know I feel seen and grounded, I know for sure that our students feel seen and grounded when they hear those words. The one thing I definitely do to keep myself sort of grounded and sort of without losing my momentum is I turn my phone off after 7 o'clock when CDP is done. They know not to text me past a certain time. If it's important, then you can text me as early as 8 a.m. But from 7 to 8, I need that time, especially when when we're in the program. But I think for me, it's traveling, it's being in community, it's being in nature, it's dancing on a dance floor, it's spending time with my mom, it's having real life things be those sort of tangibles, but also being able to just put my feet on the ground, close my eyes, and breathe. And sometimes that is the only thing that you can do, because it's the only thing that is something that you can control. And I think that is something we talk about a lot is, control the things you can control and maintain while you're in things that you can't. I know it sounds hokey and I know it sounds cheesy, and sometimes I don't believe it, but this too shall pass. And that's the only way that I know I make it.
I think so much of that is important as like an artistic motto as well. And
yeah.
There's so much of being an artist that aligns with being human, because it is one experience. And so I think that you really beautifully outlined that as well. Yeah, those are all my questions. I would love to know if you have any final thoughts or anything else you would like to share with our audiences about your work.
I think what's beautiful about CDP is that it has a 28-year legacy. Selfishly, I'm very proud of the 3-year legacy of that 28, that I've been able to reboot a program and to turn it into something that was post-COVID and very much focused on anti-racism through the lens of arts as a healing vehicle and through a trauma-informed practices. So I think being able to take CDP from this sort of, do it, gotta do the thing, gotta be in the place, it's gotta be perfect, and removing that and moving it towards this idea of process, and removing the words perfection. And I think taking pressures off of them as individuals allows them to see that, yes, pressure is great when it's necessary, but when it's not necessary, how are you making sure that you're in homeostasis? Because pressure doesn't help you when you are trying to regulate. And so I think for us, it's really trying to get our students to understand, how do you regulate in order so you can be a productive member of society, so you can be on the front line, so you can make those sandwiches, so you can fight injustice. You can't do that if you're deregulated. You just can't. You're gonna crash out. And I think that's the part that we really focus on here at PWC is really getting our students to understand that, like, you've got to take care of you, because if you're not well, you can't take care of anyone else. And we as well as an organization, we make sure to take our mental health days, to take that time off, to take that PTO, to breathe. We have a wellness room here in the building, and we use it. Sometimes we use it for meetings, sometimes we use it for thought practice, but it's here, and it was intentional. So I think everything we do moving forward as an organization and as a program within CDP is with intentionality. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here, for
Absolutely.
having this conversation.
Yeah.
It's really inspiring to hear about you and your work and partnership with children. And yeah, And thank you to our audiences for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media at Film Lab Inc. And if you're curious about Julius or any of his work, definitely follow up and give him a Google search. And yeah, thank you for tuning into this episode of Elevating Women in Entertainment series.